I'm not sure if it'll take quite long for me to finish. This won't take very long, actually, probably. I'll decide to save any talking about what I say here for another episode. I wrote down a sequence of ideas so I can make sure they were in the right order and didn't forget any of them. I could have possibly forgotten something on the way through here, but very quickly, if you don't know me, and for some reason this comes to you, I'm over 40 years as a serious but also evolved somewhat Christian. I've evolved because I've spent 10 years plus going after and figuring out what's wrong with false authorities, and I mentioned hierarchies in here, and why hierarchy is a wicked thing for the church to include. Why should that be easy on you? It's not going to get any easier coming up in a paragraph here. It's put up with all the time, but it's wrong, because someone is controlling and someone is controlled. There's a master-servant relationship in every vertical relationship of men. That's why men are equal in level and why God measures them as equals. When you love someone, you measure their value as full. They have a full value. If you love two people, you measure both their values as full. Therefore, both of their values being full, they're equal in God, and righteous men are like that concerning every individual across the entire scope, not because they belong to a group, but because they, as individuals, are esteemed properly by the one who loves them and measures them properly. So I've been an apostle and not rejected, really, because I don't get a chance to talk to people so they can reject me, but apostle of liberty, really, and righteousness, and also in the sense of clarifying and teaching and understanding and teaching and helping with the understanding of the rights of men, why men have liberty, why God doesn't bother their liberty, why God doesn't bind them and yoke them, and why Jesus comes to be a yoke breaker. A lot of good stuff like that. So I'm highly experienced with believing in mythologies, and I'll talk about it here in a second. Why I say mythologies. Well, I guess I could just talk about it without reading it to you. Maybe I'll just read for a second, and then I'll stop in a second and kind of mention a little bit more about. Well, let's just suffice to say that I'm very experienced at seeing false authorities and false submission, but also seeing success and even unity and all kinds of things come from the believing in mythologies. When I say mythologies, I mean the story of things that are invisible and unprovable. I've been at that and reforming ideas about that for my entire adult life, and very talented at it. So I wanted to just talk about a certain mythology here, and let me just I'll probably just read straight through this. Mostly, it's not very much. It's just a bunch of it's kind of an outline for me. So I started by saying I've been involved with mythologies all my adult life. Mythology meaning the stories about invisible, unprovable things. Mythologies being the basis of belief systems and the most powerful basis of belief systems. To have a belief system, you'd have a mythology. It's what it is. Christianity is this, a system of beliefs based on what we have heard people say and what we've read. Christianity often has hierarchies, parentheses, priest rule, close parentheses, where laity is told while the clergy tells or says. And unity in that body, in that group, that collective of people who this clergyman has become the exalted poobah ruler of. Unity in that group requires consonance, cognitive consonance, which means people think and arrange their thoughts and change their individuality oftentimes into what it takes to be smoothly in tune with the group. So they listen for they learn the clues of what the group believes and what they say and what they want from me, and then they change their thinking in order to be consonant with that, to be not to have cognitive dissonance where it comes as an opposition and there's a fight between it, but they remove the controversy, and then they have a withness about the sounds, about the things they hear. The sonance would be the sound, consonant would be sounding with. This sounds with them, and they sound with it, and arrange their thoughts and their ways and the way they see the world, but also they arrange it to include their submission, especially if there's a clergy laity thing that's of any kind of officiality or any kind of seriousness in there, then they'll most definitely arrange their themselves to be in unity with the group, but not also in opposition to the claimed authority figure. Okay, so that was me a little outside of my own outline. So they have prophets as well in lay ministries, or lay ministers. People like myself, they'll preach the gospel of the myth. I forgot to mention the gospel. So this Christianity and mythology is based on what they call the gospel, or the good news, and that's a preaching and a bringing people into that mindset, at least, and that collective. Usually, most people are looking to fill their churches, not just help someone to understand their view of God or whatever. So they have a presented. Well, they call it the Word of God, but it's the speaking of ministers, typically, who are speaking toward furthering the unity and the consonance of the understanding of the worldview of the mythology, and presenting more of the mythology so that people can present themselves to more of that, and therefore submit to it, and therefore be more agreeable and even more mature in their relationship with the group and with myth, with the invisible things that it speaks of, that they don't have proof of, but they believe it because the method and the way of doing that is to hear and then believe and be saved. Hearing and believing and being saved. You might want to come back and think about that again after I get done punchlining you toward the end here. Oh my gosh. Okay. So they have prophets as well as lay ministers. And so the lay ministers will support it. Not the Pope or the bishop or the preacher or the apostle or the pastor or whatever. They don't necessarily have to be here. The lay ministers will present the gospel themselves, and will even look for people to present the gospel to in order to enjoy and work out their relationship with the mythology, and to also help spread it and to have more people that they can be friends with around that and have unity and consonance with in the practice, in the understanding and the speaking of it to each other of it, and in practice of its precepts and its behaviors. Oh man, this is good actually. So they have prophets and lay ministers as well, and lay ministers. Prophets who would be the ones who speak for the head guy or whatever. They speak for the organization or even for the deity. No matter how big or small the deity is. You're going to be surprised what deity I'm talking about, I'll bet you. Okay, so they have canon. What canon means is that it's a false and unjust and troublesome idea that everything that is in their written media that they present, or the Bible, in this case in Christianity, the Bible has canon. It is considered to be canon. It's considered to be perfect, and people will, in order to not have dissonance with the Bible, they'll adjust their thinking continually, because obviously this is written in black and white and it's the canon. And people say it's the Word of God, so you have to believe it. And that was never a good thing. That was always used to get power over people and to make them believe our version and to not be heretics to it. And when canon was first begun, and when the church was young and stuff, and they were trying to develop what their doctrine was going to be, they excommunicated people and even killed people on a regular basis and drove them away because they had different ideas of that the canon ideas of the hierarchical rulership. The top of the pyramid didn't like their sedition, or their not sedition is kind of an okay word for it, but their heresy to the prescribed views that they were going to focus on and stay with, even though the views had been very recently fluid and were a matter of subjective, and then they stopped and made it objective, where these are the objects, this is the canon. So they perverted the ministries of people who had talked about God and made it into something that was supposed to be God speaking, and stole their testimony from them, and also made a troublesome thing that will cause people to fight and war and protect. If you tell someone that that's not the Word of God, that's just the Bible, it's just a book, then they'll fight you. So they have canon. The written is protected from being rejected or disbelieved, and censure is powerful and easy for the accusers to find. So when you want to accuse someone of being a heretic or being contrary or being dissonant to your mythology, then you have the written thing there just to say, look, it says right here, and that's what you're saying. So these aren't the same. It's easy to spot that kind of thing when someone is speaking in terms that don't promote and drive the mythology's group message. Written is protected from being rejected or disbelieved, and censure is powerful and easy for the accusers to find. What they said is always true. Dissent is not allowed and given any chance of being presented peacefully without censure and sanction. So the chance to raise your hand in the middle of the thing and say, well, I don't believe that's right. What about this? That doesn't happen very often, if ever. And it's very risky business to try that, actually. Because depending on how religious the people are concerning their mythology and their belief and their demand that people hold to their worldview and to the behaviors that come from their worldview, they can often be even quite violent. And the New Testament, the book of Acts is full of, and the Gospels are full of talk about people killing because their religion was being messed with by these prophets who had a mythology changed for them that they wouldn't receive. So many of those people were murdered for that. People arrange their lives entirely to the group and the group think and demand cognitive consonance of myself as a submission of myself. We will demand as we hear that and they're said, and it'll be presented as rules oftentimes and as church laws or whatever, and they'll even have a constitution where you agree to the things that they religiously hold to. And they'll demand of you, and you'll promise to do it. And so you'll move yourself into submission to it, in order to keep your cognitive consonance and your consonance with people that are in the group, and to more fully fit and more fully belong to something that's other than yourself, which is not what liberty is, by the way. Belonging to something that's not yourself and changing yourself in order to fit that is definitely slavery. So they demand cognitive consonance of themselves. They demand agreement of themselves, and that being a submitting of themselves. This seems to and could describe faulty and false Christianity. But I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm talking about the new champion of religions with the most adherents, and oddly the most atheist adherents. What is the new religion that's become the most adhered to and popular religion in the world that even has the atheists adhering and being religious in their religion? People don't believe in God and don't think that they've started believing in God now, but they're still willing to adhere to it. This new irresistible religion based entirely on faith and submission to rumors. COVID-19. can't see God because he's invisible and he's huge. You can't see COVID because it's invisible and it's tiny. All you know about COVID is that you've heard people say that it's there and that it's threatening, and now 3 billion people are forced to go to church in their own homes and to reject their own liberty in order to stay outside of sanction and to be peaceful and to submit themselves to the mythology of a disease that has not been proven to exist and cannot be tested for and will not, in being tested for in any way that they can test for it, separate itself from something else so you could identify it specifically that it's that one that's never happened. So everything they've said about it has been made up. It's all been written media and what people say about a belief system in a rumor. And it only has a couple of ways that it relates to Christianity, that it mocks and mimics it. And you get persecuted for not believing them. Their religion has taken over the world, and you get persecuted if you won't agree to, and if you won't submit, if you don't believe it's real. That is true. Never been proven. Everybody they said had it. Everybody they said died of it just had genetic material that came from the COVID family in themselves. None of them were singularly infected with a serious cold or flu, called what they call COVID now, because they decided to. Now I'm getting ready to get persecuted and divided from all my friends and family, and maybe irreversibly so, because I'm not going to put up with them talking to me about it, and they're not going to get away with droning along in the religious procession of this thing with me in tow. They won't have me in tow, and I won't tell them any more times. I don't believe. I won't. As one of the most interesting and powerful ministers in some ways that there's probably ever been, my family is going to become disenfranchised from me and not want to hear from me because I don't believe in their religion of COVID. And if they can't come through, if they won't take the effort to come through and they think I'm an enemy to them, then enemies, I'll be an enemy in their household. Because I refuse the rumor and pretending like the mainstream media is canonical and it's like it's of God. It's of the God COVID and prophets like Fauci and whatever. False ministries like presidents and various kind of governors that are going to tell you that we're sorry, but we have to do this to you. Worse than the Catholics ever were. Well, I mean, the Catholics were pretty bad at a time or two, but it's the same exact thing. Chances are pretty good, though, that the Pope isn't someone that you've seen before. Someone in the background, in the so-called leader of any of these nations. None of those are the head guy. There's no way. You might call him an archbishop, possibly. If you're going to look at hierarchies and try and peg where they fit, they certainly aren't the top guy. There's no way. Those people are doing what they're told. Anybody that would drive this and do this to the entire planet is going to be the worst guy to reject and to disobey that they would ever have met. There's no way you do that. They're talking about doing something that evil. And they're telling you they'll set you on fire, a bit at a time or whatever, and slowly kill you. We have to have social distancing. Go Fauci, go. Go Prophet, go. I told brutally fast. I was finding out that half of my family that's available to me that lives 3 miles from me or 4 miles from me, they are not going to see me in person until this is over. Till this is over with. As I was telling her that you guys can come over, you know, we're not scared of anything, and we'd love to see you. Oh, we'll come over when this is over. When what's over? I should have played dumb. When I started in Christianity, I had crises that drove me because I needed help from God, and I needed help with a problem that was going on that involved someone else, and so the two of us, we decided we should go to church and see if we could, you know, if anybody could help us or whatever. I got powerfully saved and everything. Something real drove my beginning of becoming consonant with the mythology that was presented and enjoyed in that group. And I chose it. My family members that I was talking about and my friends, they're not ones that chose that. They were hypnotized by it on purpose, and the group think and the consonance of the group made it so much, not even so much easier, because they probably didn't choose anything. It made it easy to just flow in and believe that, because we have to do something, we have to save this thing. So the most powerful and most binding and most damaging religion in the world was created just by rumors, by a flickering TV light with the liar speaking on there, saying what he's told to say, and he has no idea. Not one of them discerning. Not anybody saying, hey, wait a second. You know, is this proven? No, it's a belief system. We just believe it. We hear the gospel and we believe and we obey. Oh. I wonder if the word COVID is, if COVID is actually in any kind of relation a word than in relation to coven. That would be a trip.